Welcome to this week's episode of the Sports Curious podcast. I'm your host, Amy Butchon-Siegfried. And this week, every week, I'm joined by my wonderful co host, my wonderful co founder, the super legendary, awesome Scott. Scott, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's a great week to be on the podcast.
It is a
Happy to
great
be
week to be on. It's a great week to be on the podcast. We have a really good one ahead of us. This one was really inspired initially by the Kobe Bryant statue that is going up in February, and we really started thinking about these athletes who were gone too soon and left these significant legacies, and really had an impact on the sports world that. Some of them you may not have even projected at the time, but really what they've done to change the world of sports and really help those out who are young athletes coming up through the ranks as well. So we have a lot to talk about today because there are a lot of phenomenal people to cover in this, and we may not be able to cover them all. We'll do our best. So let's dive right in. We start off by talking about Kobe. The anniversary of the helicopter crash that took he and his daughter Gianna and others was 4 years ago, the January 26th, 2020. Start of a rough year. 2020 was a rough year. They've done so much work. His wife has done so much work with the Mamacita Foundation, and it's incredible to see the work that she's done. So maybe talk to us a little bit about Kobe and his legacy. We can talk about Sabrina, who is a product of his hard work too. And
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I can remember the exact moment
yes,
when my phone just blew up with text messages, and no one knew that if this was real or if this was fake. This terrible, terrible tragedy we're hearing about in real time.
hmm
I think that might be like the biggest moment, a most unfortunate moment in like social media history, where the whole world just stopped and was shocked
hmm
at the news that the helicopter crash. Extremely unfortunate, terrible situation for everyone involved. But since that day, I think a lot of good has come from it. Like we spoke about, turning such a terrible situation into something that we can celebrate and give back to the community with charity and improve the lives of those that survived or those that are in his charity and the Mambasita charity. So
yeah. I mean, and you look at people, he had all these great relationships, and he really was a big supporter of women's basketball. Obviously, his daughter is a huge basketball player, um, and it's Sabrina Ionescu, right? Who was under his wing as he
yes,
was a mentor to her, and she is this phenomenal WNBA player. She spoke at his memorial as a college student, and she was what I think probably a junior at that point. And really, you look at the impact that she's now carrying on, right? His legacy as well, and impacting young girls all across the country and across the world when it comes to the world of sports as well.
yeah, I mean, he became the ultimate girl dad and supporting WNBA, supporting female college players, female high school players that we're finding out now that were under his wing and that he was mentoring. It's really incredible. I don't know if I've ever told you this story, but I still remember it pretty vividly. I think it was the 2019 Aces season opener. They played the Sparks here in Las Vegas, and we went and we walked in behind Kobe. He flew out his daughter's entire team
Oh, that's awesome.
and their parents, and we walked in right behind him, and they ended up sitting right in front of us, and you could just see him interacting with all the girls, kind of talking to them, pointing out things in the game. It was really cool to see. And
That's
unfortunately,
really cool.
it was that team and those parents that were on that helicopter crash. Unfortunately, it
Oh,
was just very cool to see.
it's so tragic, but it's so neat to see that the impact that he's realizing, and I think you see a lot of athletes who realize,
Mhm.
and you'll see this as we talk about them, who realize their celebrity status, if you will,
Yeah.
and their knowledge and their skill set, and how they pay that forward through so many multiple things. And that's one to say about about Kobe?
I mean, well, I don't know if we said the date on the statue, so it's going to be February 8th.
And the
They're
statue's going
unveiling
outside the arena?
Crypto.com, formerly known as Staples Arena. Yes,
Okay.
the arena that Kobe built.
Amazing.
Yes.
Amazing, amazing. Let's talk a little bit about I think next let's go to Roberto Clemente. We'll switch over to baseball. So for those of you who are not familiar with Roberto Clemente, he passed away in 1972. Also, in a plane, he was in a plane crash. He had chartered. He was responding to an earthquake in Nicaragua, and he had chartered a plane that was overloaded with relief supplies, and it crashed on New Year's Eve in 1972. But Clemente was one of the best hitters in baseball. He had exactly 3,000 hits, which was that last hit was his final at bat of his season and of his career. And he is just known for his great humanitarian efforts. And if you're familiar with baseball, you're familiar with Major League Baseball, they have the Roberto Clemente Award, which was established in 2002 and it honors players who go above and beyond, similar to the Walter Payton Award in the NFL, who go above and beyond in humanitarian efforts along with sportsmanship and kindness. Let's talk a little bit about Roberto Clemente.
And like you said, he unfortunately lost his life on a humanitarian effort trip. I mean, he was there to support the victims of the earthquake, and then ultimately ended up passing away, unfortunately. But since then, we've turned that event into something amazing with the Roberto Clemente Award and also Roberto Clemente Day that they've
Mm-hmm.
recently instilled, where players on September 15th, they, I guess, I don't know exactly why September 15th, but they made that Roberto Clemente Day. And it started with just like the Pirates, who he played for, wearing his jersey number 21, and then expanded to Puerto Rican players could wear 21. And now I think basically anybody who wants to wear number 21 on that day is allowed to wear it. So it's
What I
really
never.
just expanded that we're able to celebrate the life and achievements that he had on and off the field still to this day.
Yeah, it's really special to be able to pay that forward. And I guess if you had a legacy to leave, it's you're inspiring others to continue to do good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if I remember correctly, his number Jackie Robinson is the only number who's retired across all teams. But this one
Yes,
where any baseball player can essentially apply to wear the number 21 on this day, as long as the team has enough time to make them a uniform. Otherwise, everyone will wear a patch on their sleeve on that
yes,
day.
yeah. And
And similar. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, yeah, Jackie Robinson's obviously the only player to be retired across the entire league, but the entire league gets together on September 15th to celebrate the legacy that Roberto
Hmm.
had.
Hmm. Similar in terms of a legacy. Walter Payton is the Walter Payton Award is the NFL's award for a similar for humanitarian causes, and there's a nominee from each team for this award, and then there's obviously a winner, and you'll see the winners and nominees have a patch on their jerseys. It kind of looks like a guy with a cape on in a sense, but it's a big coat because Walter Payton played for the Bears, where you wear coats lots of times. But he passed away from a rare liver disease at the age of 45, and he had an amazing career and obviously left a legacy with this Walter Payton Award.
And I'd say outside of the Super Bowl and like winning the MVP, I think the Walter
Hmm.
Payton Award has become one of the most prestigious awards in the league, as represents what players are doing off the field in the community, which is ultimately more impactful than a lot of the things they do on the field.
Hmm. Absolutely. And that one's typically announced during the NFL honors, which is right before the Super Bowl, or is that after the Super Bowl?
I believe it's the Thursday night before the Super Bowl,
Okay.
because I
And
remember
last,
we
go ahead.
Dak Prescott's speech last year. I think I
Hmm.
demanded that you turn it on just to hear
He
him
did. Yeah,
speak
you
after
did.
he won.
Yeah, you texted me and said, "Hey, you got to watch this when Dak wins this award because the video and his story is so touching, and all of the he for every every reason should be not where he is. He's had so much adversity in his life,
Mhm.
and he has turned that into such a positive, and that to me is incredible to be able to turn that around. And he is probably one of the most criticized players in the NFL just because he's the Dallas Cowboys quarterback, and
Yes.
he has risen above adversity throughout his life and throughout his career, and has done incredible things for others.
Yeah, and Jerry Jones doesn't do many favors, so he has to overcome Jerry Jones as well. So that's
Oh,
that's
Jerry
an
Jones.
award in its own right.
Oh, Jerry Jones. Now let's talk. Where do you want to go with this? I think I want to talk a little bit about Jim Valvano. So Jim Valvano may not be a household name to your home, but you've probably heard his speech. He was a point guard for Rutgers when he was in college. He's a longtime college basketball coach, and he passed away at the age of 47 from cancer. And every year, ESPN does the Jimmy V Foundation fundraiser to fight against cancer. And his speech is notable from the ESPYs in 1993.
I mean, yeah, they play it every year, and every year it's still, I don't know
Hmm.
about you, it still gets to be a very emotional, even though you know exactly what he's going to say and exactly,
Hmm.
what the outcome is. But it definitely brings the emotions out, I think, in everyone.
Hmm.
Just how he knew, I don't, I don't know what was the quote. I'm dying, so you think I care about someone telling me my time's up on the speech?
Yep. Well, his speech, and I'm going to read a little pieces of it
Mhm,
here. So this was in 1993 ESPYS, and it's called "Don't Give Up, Don't Ever Ever Give Up." So you hear him, and you hear that echo in your brain, and I can see it.
mhm.
But he talks a lot about, to me, there are three things that we should do every day. We should do this every day of our lives. Number one is to laugh. You should laugh every day. That's why I have you, Scott. You make me laugh every day. Number two is to think. You should spend some time in thought. Number three is you should have your emotions move to tears. Could be happiness or joy. But think about it. If you laugh, you think, and you cry, that's a full day. It's a heck of a day. And if you do that 7 days a week, you're going to have something special. I mean, what an
Pretty powerful
incredible,
quote
really
for
pretty
someone
powerful, right?
who knew his time was up, unfortunately.
Yeah, he
But
passed away about 2 months after that speech.
2 months, wow.
Hmm. But
I
I'm going
guess
to
we
look
get
it
to
up. Wait, wait.
celebrate his legacy every year. I mean, coaches versus cancer, the Valvano speech. I don't know how many hundreds of millions of dollars they've raised, but I
I'm
know it's a
looking it up
lot.
right now.
Okay.
Nearly 43 million in grants. This is its 30th year. Nearly $43 million in grants to 73 research teams from prestigious cancer centers. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah. So once again, a tragic, terrible situation that has gone on to help so many other people.
Hmm. Absolutely. Um, let's like speaking of a tragic situation, let's talk about Pat Tillman. Pat Tillman is an NFL player. He played for Arizona State University and then played for the Arizona Cardinals. And he gave his life on the battlefield. After 9/11, he decided that he wanted to defend and stand up for his country. And so he enlisted, and he was a member of the Army Rangers, and he lost his life on the battlefield. And I lived in Arizona at that point, and lived in Phoenix, and what a tough situation that was. I worked I think that was still in baseball at that point. And so
Yeah.
hearing that story just really hit home, and how that hit everyone in the gut. And they've evolved that into a foundation that has done great work, but especially their Tillman Scholar Foundation, excuse me, Tillman Scholar Program that has award scholarships to military service members, veterans, and their spouses, and they select them exclusively on merit and their potential for impact, which I think is really phenomenal.
I mean, that's really incredible. I mean, this is one of the most tragic ones we have to talk about, considering that,
Hmm.
he walked away from, I think he just signed like a brand new deal with the Cardinals for a lot of money and walked away and chose to go defend the country. And then ultimately, unfortunately, lost his life to
At
friendly
age of
fire
28. Yeah.
at the age of 28.
Yeah.
But the things the
Yeah.
foundation has done, and I think that just speaks volumes to what he was about.
Mhm. And I saw
And
that
he's got.
they do a run. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just because I think we're on the same page that he has a statue outside ASU Stadium.
It's outside
I
of
think
Sun
it's the
Devils, or excuse me, outside of Cardinal Stadium.
Cardinals. And they
Hmm.
do the run as well. So
Hmm. They do a big Pat Tillman run. I saw it's in its 20th year this year that you run 4.2 miles, which was his jersey number, and you finish in Sun Devil Stadium, which is really cool. So, once again, raising money for a great cause. We have a few left. I'm trying to think where we go with this one. I do want to mention really quickly Lou Gehrig. Lou Gehrig, longtime baseball player, one of the most tremendous hitters of all time, and he passed away at 38 years old from what we now ALS, which we now call Lou Gehrig's disease as well, because of that. And his his battle with his disease brought it to light, which brought to light treatments and opportunities for care for those who have ALS. Um, what a tragic another tragic story, but that his struggle has helped so many who are battling this disease.
you know, taken far too young, and I think his iconic speech where he considered himself the luckiest man in baseball, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even as he knew that things were on the decline, and we've used that situation to really help a lot of people with ALS, which is
Mm-hmm.
an absolutely terrible disease.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Um, I don't want to. I hate to cut us short, but I want to wrap us up here with our I think our last two. Would you like to speak to Junior Seau or Dale Earnhardt? What would you prefer? You pick your poison.
Let's go Dale first
Okay,
to finish it off.
go ahead.
Oh, okay, I'll do it. With this one, I mean, one of the worst scenes we've ever experienced live on television was when, unfortunately, Dale Earnhardt Sr. crashed during Daytona in 2001 into the corner. And at the time, they, tried to downplay how bad it was, but everyone kind of, you could tell by the broadcast and all the drivers that this was just a really extremely terrible crash that he ultimately passed away from on the track. And like we spoke about, his unfortunate death has led to a bunch of new safety precautions, and it's called the Hans device, which if you watch the NASCAR races, like locks the driver's head in so
Mm-hmm.
there's no whiplash or minimal whiplash. And since then that's become mandatory and probably saved, unfortunately didn't save his life, but it has, I'm sure, saved so many other drivers' lives.
Absolutely, and I'm sure that that device. You see, they wear an F1. They wear something
Mhm.
similar. So you see a lot of these. A lot of that has probably trickled down to other racing entities as
Yes.
well.
And then just
And
to see his son win the race 3 years later at Daytona
it
was,
was
I
pretty.
mean, that's one of the all-time sports moments, I think, for sure.
Mm-hmm. It like makes me want to tear up right now thinking about it. It was just
Yeah,
a cool moment.
very.
Yeah. And I'll wrap us with Junior Seau. For those of you who may not know Junior Seau, he played for the Chargers, the Dolphins, the Patriots. I think most notably for me, he played for the Chargers. I was actually in San Diego the day he passed away, but he was an all-time um, All-Pro. He's a member of the Hall of Fame class of 2015. He was a linebacker, and he's really the first person who, at least that you and I can both remember, that had notable CTE. So he died of suicide. He shot himself in the chest, and which you told me that you've read that part of that was to save his brain, and his family allowed for
Mhm.
them to do the autopsy on his brain and the analysis on his brain, and he did have CTE, and so he was really one of the first people that we started to acknowledge that CTE was a thing, was an issue, and he has driven a lot of change. His sacrifice was a lot of change for those who play now with helmets and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of new rules for helmet-to-helmet contact, et cetera, to help preserve these athletes.
Yeah, it's a terribly unfortunate situation, like so many others, has led to so many, basically revolutionized the game of football from what it
Mhm.
used to be to where we are today. It's a completely different game, in part to protect these players to prevent things like this. So his act to preserve his brain in that situation that he was dealing with has led to, I mean, immense amount of new rules and things to help players.
Mhm. Absolutely. And, to wrap us up, this has been like it's a tough heart. It's a tough podcast to put together, but we really felt like there was a lot to recognize in these incredible athletes who had incredible careers cut too soon, and incredible lives cut too soon. But their lasting legacy has really made an impact on the world greater than sports. And I think that's what you and I talk a lot about, is that sports is a big deal, yes, but the world is greater than sports, and then these gentlemen have shown that is a true statement. So thanks for joining me today.
Thank you.